All right, once again, I'm providing an update after a long, long delay. We're talking like 2 years here, and I really apologize for that, but the project is not dead. I moved, I had a lot going on at work. Obviously, last year we couldn't really do any group recordings or any testing like that due to COVID. So, yeah, we kind of lost a year on that, but the project is kind of back on, it's not dead. So, before I was trying to finish the entire season one and kind of brainstorm season two before I actually went into production and started recording the dialogue and the sounds and putting the episodes together. So I decided to change my thinking on that, and I just decided to say, all right, I'm going to lock in episodes 1 and 2, which are the pilot. So it's in either a 1 hour with the 2 half-hour parts, or it might end up being like an hour and a half or 2 hours with more like 45-minute parts. But that's going to be the main pilot. That's going to set everything in motion. It's going to be divided into 2 parts, and that's going to be locked in, recorded, produced, mixed, mastered, everything finished out the gate. And then I'm going to go on to work on the rest of the episodes, or I'll be working on writing while that's going on as far as the actual post-production. But I decided to tackle it first in one step and just to see how it works out, how the process is, how production goes, and then continue on. So with that, I made you guys, if you're writing projects as well, you might be interested in how I'm doing this. It's a little bit different. I'm used to screenplays. This is a series, so I've never broken down like beat sheets as far as an abbreviated form. So I did one for each episode to have a 2-act plot structure, where you have Act 1 and Act 2. You have an inciting incident in the middle of Act 1, then the turning point would be where it transitions from 1 to 2, and then you have another turning point and climax 3/4 of the way through the second act. Kind of abbreviated it to 7 main points that I want each episode to have, which is the opening, the setup and the inciting incident, then action in the middle and a twist, and then there's always a come down or refusal by the main character, and then a reorganization, build up and prep, and then the action climax and the end, and then the cliffhanger. So there's basically, I kind of broke them down into 7 distinct points that I need to hit on for the structure of each episode, and then each episode will just continually to go in a curve back to back to back, from hook to the next one. So I've got 1 and 2 written, but I'm still going back and forth with the scene ordering and the actual structure of the scenes. I did note card it recently, and so I can move the order around. That's a method that I like to use. Then when I'm really happy about the order and how the actual list of scenes is playing out in my head, well, then I'll write down the outline and then go back to the screenplay. And just I'm kind of doing it by scene. So I'm just writing the scenes, and then I'll put the scenes all in the right order on how I decide later. And then hopefully that'll be locked soon. So once that's done, then I do want to start going out at any point by my own and start recording all the sounds that I know I need and building my libraries that I'm going to record myself, as well as finalize the casting for the dialogue. And my plan is still to move into dialogue recording this fall. As you can see around me, I'm not in the shed anymore. We did move. I do have now a walkout basement that I am finishing and converting. So unfortunately, I was planning on finishing the basement and having it completely done along with this more or less soundproof room for recording prior to production. The costs of lumber and COVID has me behind on that. I have $3,000 just in what you see behind me and the subfloor and the framing. So my priority now is just to get enough of it to a point to where I can record in it. So it's still going to need the insulation, the soundproofing that I'm going to do, which is a hard foam layer, the regular insulation batting for the 16-inch for the ceiling joists, and then 2 layers of 5H drywall. And then the dividing wall will have an exterior insulated French door. It'll have 2 5H drywalls on each side, so it'll be 4 layers of drywall and then the insulation in the middle. And I think that will get me as good as I can get. Obviously, it won't be soundproof, but I'm already in the basement. This side of the basement is below grade, whereas the walkout part is insulated wall on the outside. This is all cinder block, so this is the quietest part of the house that I can do. So I do need to do the insulation and the drywall, at least in here, in order for me to record any dialogue in here. But I'm still planning on doing that this summer and up to the fall. So in this interim, I have been working on that other side podcast, still doing a little bit of testing. So as you can see, I've got about 170,000 downloads so far out of the episodes that I have. I think there's 30 to 40 episodes. And there's a huge spike in audio usership right after COVID, as you can tell. And then it's kind of dropped back down. And I also created a YouTube channel as well to try to play around with that. I know I'm doing it a little bit with this vlog, but I wanted to still get a little bit more practice at converting the podcast to a video, putting it on YouTube and seeing how it does, because that's going to be my plan with the actual audio drama. Yeah, the whole point of the podcast is just to practice so that I don't make major mistakes with this production I've been planning for 3 years, and I'm going to involve a lot more people and spend a lot more money. And then if I, don't know how to work Audition properly, or if I'm uploading to YouTube wrong, or I'm not sure what the best platform is to release podcasts on, then I'd rather make those mistakes with a little side project like this, and basically to test things out. If I see the distribution going well, the reach going well, I'm learning how to do everything, then I feel pretty confident that when this audio drama podcast project is finished, then I'm going to know exactly how to actually get it out there effectively. So that's what the purpose of that is, but it's still plugging away. I still upload an episode every now and again because it's really easy. It's just ambient sounds. One thing I did do is I made a couple soundscapes for this last collection, and that again was good practice on. None of these were recorded. I pulled them all from audio libraries that I now have memberships to, but it was basically just a good practice for me in layering for how I'm going to do the soundscapes and the different scenes for this audio drama. But this one here is called Seaside Harbor, where it's basically a layer of 30 or 40 sounds that I put together to try to sound like you're at a busy harbor next to the sea with bicycles and flags and winches and boats and cars going by and a distant train or basically just to practice with layering. So when I get to the project, I once again have a little bit more experience on getting it to sound right and knowing how many are too many sounds, how many are too few sounds. I'm trying to get the right balance because I tend to want to put as many sounds in there as I can, because what you think of that you actually hear in real life. But I found that tends to be muddy. And so I think less is more, and I might limit myself to like 10 sounds or something, so that when you actually hear the soundscape, because you're going to have dialogue and some music and some other things as well, but if you make a soundscape and you pick out those 3 or 4 or 5 really distinct sounds that people attribute to that location or that time period, that's way more effective than trying to put everything in there, because it'll get jumbled and lost. But so that's another good thing about that side project, being a little bit of practice for this bigger project. So that's about it. I just wanted to provide an update. The project's not dead. I'm going to be working on mainly writing parts 1 and 2 and getting that pilot locked so that I can actually secure the casting, and then getting this room set up for recording, as well as starting to gather the sounds in my own library for the project that I'll need. Once the script is locked, and I can start really going through on that spreadsheet and listing all the sounds that I need and start recording them out in the field. And I'll keep you guys updated.